Welcome to the Cool Tools Show. I'm Mark Frauenfelder, Editor-in-Chief of Cool Tools, a website of tool recommendations written by our readers. You can find us at cool-tools.org. I'm joined by my co-host, Kevin Kelly, founder of Cool Tools. Hey, Kevin.
Hey, it's great to be here.
In each episode of the Cool Tools Show, Kevin and I talk to a guest about some of his or her favorite uncommon and uncommonly good tools they think others should know about. Our guest this week is Ruben Bolling. Ruben's the author of Tom the Dancing Bug, the weekly comic strip that appears on websites and newspapers across the country and premieres every week on Boing Boing. The comic is a Herblock Prize winner, an RFK Journalism Award winner, and was a Pulitzer Prize finalist in 2019 and 2021. Ruben, it is great to have you back on the Cool Tools Show.
Hey, Mark. Hey, Kevin. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's such a pleasure to hear you and to hear your latest picks for us as well.
Oh, yes, the latest picks. Yes, yeah. Of course, I've made picks.
You have some good picks. I took a sneak peek at them, and they look wonderful. Why don't you just jump right in and tell us about your first tool?
Okay, the first tool is, it is, let me just get the full name of it. I'm not even sure if this is the exact one that I have, but it's an LED light pad, and the one that I found is LITENERGY, and I guess I've always it's really a light box. It's very thin, and I guess I should describe what a light box is.
Yeah,
please. Any artist can find a light box useful. You can draw something on paper. And then you put it on the light box and put the final paper you're going to use. I use very heavy Bristol board. You put that on top of it, turn the light on, and then you can see through the paper. And so it's a way of tracing. It's a way of tracing with a light underneath. But I've always had this big clunky light box for years. It was given to me as a present when I first started cartooning. And it must be like 4 inches thick with an actual light bulb inside.
Metal case.
The technology, I mean, Jack Kirby probably would have said that's old fashioned. Al Cap may have used it. But last year I had these books coming out. And my plan was to, 2 books came out, and my plan was to buy a bunch of them from the publisher and sell them myself online, in addition to being sold by the publisher and at stores and on Amazon and everything. And I would sell them signed and sketched in. But I knew I could really use a light box for these sketches, because I can totally screw up a drawing. I could start drawing something in someone's book, and then it's just, oh my God, this doesn't make sense. The hand is coming out of the nose. I mean, I could make any mistake possible. So I knew that it would be best to have an outline that I would have, and then I would use that to for drawing it. But this box just would not work. You couldn't. I needed something that could fit in between the pages of the book so that I could sort of trace it that way.
I get it. So it would be like fitting in like a bookmark almost.
Right. It would fit under the page, but I wouldn't have to bend the book at all, because the book would just sort of fit between page 4 and 6. And then I could just trace as I'm drawing in the book. Instead of drawing it from scratch and having to worry about the risk, I could just, draw off of an outline that I already had.
Couldn't you have used like an iPad?
As a light box? Yes, I think I could have.
You could have the image right on. I mean, just showing.
Yeah, and then if there was sufficient, I probably could have turned the iPad's sort of brightness up enough so that it could have shown through. And yeah, I could have done that. I don't have one. And that would have been a reason. That would have been a reason to get one.
Yeah, well, it's a lot more excive than $20, which is what this costs.
Yeah, this was a cheap. I said, does this even exist? And I found it, and it sure enough, it existed. It's a pad with little LED lights that shine through, and it's not that bright. An iPad is probably brighter, but I found out, actually embarrassingly late, my son came in and suggested that if you turn all the other lights off in my office, and that's the only source of light, it totally shines through. It's totally fine. So, I used it a lot. I mean, I'm glad to say that for a few months last fall, signing and drawing in these books became pretty much a full-time job for me. And this absolutely saved me because I didn't have to throw out tons of books because of failed drawings. Each drawing is different, and it's it's obviously I do each drawing, but at least I have an outline for where the head is going to go and the arms and everything. So because I didn't want to pencil it and then draw it. It just saved me a lot when I was doing this. And it's going to save me again when my next 2 books come out next month. So this thing has been just a real lifesaver for me. It's a tool that has become very dependent on.
So tell me a little bit about your practice here of drawing in the books that people buy from you. So the idea is if someone orders a book from you directly from your website or wherever,
right,
you will make a little cartoon for them in the book.
Right,
Is that what you're doing?
I sign it to them, and then I have a drawing that I'll draw something. I'll draw, I have some friends who are artists who can just start a drawing in the upper left hand corner and finish in the bottom right hand corner, and it's a perfect drawing. And I'm just not like that. So yeah, I'll draw a character saying something to the person or whatever. I make it up, but this gives me sort of a guideline for what I'm going to do. But yeah, everybody who buys a book this way gets a drawing in every book.
Wow. Have you heard people cutting that page out and then framing it?
No, I haven't.
Because you're signing. I assume you were signing that drawing, so it's like an original by you.
It's an original drawing by me, but it's within the pages of the book. So yeah, you'd have to cut it out. I'll draw on anything for if they want. I'll draw it on a piece of paper and send it in. But yeah, I think people want it it makes the book more meaningful. I think is the reason why it's done so well.
Let me ask you this, Ruben. Do you use a special kind of mailing service to ship the things? Because for me, that's like always the hassle. Is like priority mail is expensive, but then if you use regular envelopes, it's like they sometimes want you to go in the post office to prove your identity or whatever. Do you use anything special? What do you do about postage?
I don't know anything about that. So what I've done is I just buy a ton of these envelopes that I know fit and are waterproof.
Mm-hmm.
And especially in the beginning when I was dealing with all the pre-orders, I would almost take like a shopping cart to the post office and piss everyone off in line because they knew when I got to the front, I was going to be there for a while. And I would do that like every few days. So I had no good system for that, and it was time consuming.
We have a system, Mark. So we use media mail, and we use this Stampica or something that generates the labels and the postage automatically, and we just have to bring the shopping cart to the back door of the post office because they're already metered, they're already paid for, and media mail is only $3 or $4 a book,
right?
And so it really works well. We have the envelopes, we just put them in, put on the label that has the address and the postage, and then just drop them off. So
you can weigh. Well, I guess even though everything was exactly the same, the post office would give me different prices for the media mail. It would be one of 2 prices. And I would tell them, these are exactly the same. They have exactly the same thing in them, but one would be $334 and one would be $380, whatever. I forget what it was, but it was crazy. But so I guess if you could weigh it, the other thing was that if you do media mail, which I did, you get a receipt and tracking number. Can you get that the way you do it, Kevin?
Yes.
Yeah, because I need a tracking number because one in a few hundred, someone will say I didn't get it, and I have to say everyone's gotten it, but you have to prove that here's the tracking number.
Yeah, no, it's very seamless and it's quite convenient, and we can work with whole lists. We don't have to type one each in. You can have like a spreadsheet that we work from. So, Mark, I think we can talk about it, but it's entirely doable.
Okay. There was something that I've heard of that has been recommended and I haven't tried. And if any listeners have had experience, I'd love to hear about it. You can email me. It's called pirateship.com. And it's like this free shipping software. And they help you find like the cheapest the cheapest postal rates. and it looks pretty cool. Like the whole system. I don't know how they make money from it, but
The idea of pirate, I don't know if that really kind of I think that branding might want to be worked on. It's like, yeah,
Right.
we'll take your stuff and maybe we'll deliver this.
Exactly.
I think when it comes to these mailings, I very much want to work within the system.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But,
It's my new mailing service called Hijack.
right. But I'd love any Kevin, if you give me more information about how you do that and then anything else, because that was one of the many cumbersome aspects of this process that I was making up as I went along last fall.
And this is all just true for domestic. Once you get outside the U.S., it's a nightmare.
No, I do international, and that is a whole separate thing. I know how to do that, but there aren't that many of them. But that's a hassle.
Yeah, that does seem like a hassle. Okay, well, cool. So we've talked about mailing and the pad, the light pad. So tell us about your next one.
Okay, the next one, I guess, is two sort of work hand in hand. A mechanical pencil. This is sort of, I thought it would maybe be interesting that if I talked about sort of my process for making the comics and how I draw it.
For sure.
A mechanical pencil that I use with blue lead for penciling my comic, the Kuru Toga Advance, I think it's called. UNIKURU TOGA. And then for inking, I use Sakura Pigma pens.
Mm-hmm.
And for decades when I started, my drawing procedure was to draw with a very hard lead pencil and then ink over that with rapidograph ink pen, and then erase the pencil, so that what I ended up with was exactly what the comic would be, what it would look like. And a few years ago, I went to a gallery show of the work of Chris Ware, who I know you know, Mark.
Sure.
Yeah, and you, Kevin, too. So he's like this great cartoonist whose work I just love. And I still, even looking at his originals, I don't really understand how he draws the way he draws. But I saw that he uses non-photo blue pencil and then inks over that as part of it. And then leaves the blue pencil in the original, and it comes out in their reproduction process. So I decided, this is the way a real cartoonist works. And this is way late in my career. This is recently, so I don't know anything about this stuff. And so I just suddenly switched by inspired or copying him. I switched to this mechanical pencil with blue lead and Micron pens. And the pens are just fantastic. They're so much easier than rapidographs. They're just a marker, and they're cheap. And the minute they lose their boldness, you just chuck them. And the rapidographs were a hassle. You had to hold them at a certain angle, and they're always jamming or leaking or require maintenance. So that's my new way of doing it. The problem is the blue. I use this blue mechanical pencil, and it's pretty good. It's the best I found for blue, but nothing matches the hard, sharpened pencil of a lead black pencil. Blue pencils are almost like crayons. They're too wide.
Yeah, they're very soft.
Yeah, and I haven't found anything hard enough. This mechanical one is about as hard as it gets. It's still not hard enough, and then it really doesn't erase. So now when I draw, my pencils used to be exactly what I was going to ink. I was just following the line. Now if I draw something wrong with the in pencil, I draw another line next to it, and then another line, and sometimes I'm just like inking, and I'm like splitting the difference or making decisions as I go, based on, so the inking has become less exact and more spontaneous. The blue, I wish I could find a blue lead that was as hard as black lead, and I never have.
So Ruben, in the old days, this is sort of like the traditional way of, blue lines first, or even a blue grid that you would do paste up on, because it was called photo blue because basically the black and white photography did not see blue. It was rendered like white, and so it became invisible. And that kind of only works if you're working in black and white. It doesn't work if you were in the past, if you were doing color, like, if you were doing a color all on one sheet and you had the blue lines, they would still show up. Does that removing the blue, how does that work these days when they're making when they're going to reproduce it? Do they is there kind of like a filter for Photoshop, or
That's
what is that
I mean,
process?
I'm doing it myself because, then at that time, I'm sure Chris Ware sends that to a like a photostat machine that doesn't see the blue. But what I have to do is I scan it into my computer, and then I can remove the blue. There's a process to remove all blue, all of any color
Right, like in
from
Photoshop?
Photoshop, and then I'm left with the black inking, and then I start the coloring process on the computer, and other manipulation they do on the computer.
Right, right, right. Okay. So you have like a filter for Photoshop that just removes the blue.
Right. That's right.
Do you have like as a little I don't know what you call it, the preset filter that you just kind of
Your
apply
batch
to it?
process, or
I have a boy, I don't even know what you call it. It's I guess it's a macro of some kind. It's you there's a thing that you do, and there's like two of them. You have to do one, then make a new version of that, and then fill that in with black, and then it becomes dark enough. Yeah, there's a whole thing. I've scanned there are YouTube tutorials on how to do this, and articles, and so I've sort of found the way that works with me. And part of the process is pressing a button, and a macro does the first part, and then I have to do some other.
I like those kind of processes where you press the button.
Yes, exactly. But unfortunately, there's still more to do. But yeah, it kind of works, and then I end up with that black. The problem is that I just wish that the blue pencil was as good as that. And then if I use black pencil, the hard black pencil, but with the Micron pens, I don't think those Micron pens would withstand the erasing process.
yeah,
Whereas the rapidographs do.
Well, if you're removing colors, it doesn't have to be blue. Blue
Right.
is just if you found a hard other color, you could just use that color.
Boy, that's a good point. I haven't even looked into
and remove that because
I use the blue really for the legacy reason that you're talking about.
Right. But if it's just a color, if it was like a green, like green screen, if it was a really hard
it could
green,
be any color. The thing is, I think that I always assume that it's not the blueness that causes it. It's the fact that it's a color that causes the softness and the non-erasability.
I don't know. Who knows?
But yeah, maybe I should experiment with that. If any listener knows a way to get any non-black color that's as hard and sharp and erasable as a regular pencil, a number 5 hard pencil, or something like that, that'd be great.
That would be. But Ruben, you have a process that's like partially with traditional analog media, and then you move it over to Photoshop. Have you experimented with using something like Procreate? I know you don't have an iPad, but have you borrowed someone's iPad? And
it's funny. Almost everyone I know, many cartoonists have switched over just to that. Mm-hmm. And I've heard so many stories when people say, yeah, I was resisting. And then there was one time when I was traveling and I had to use it. And then once I did, I never went back.
Yeah.
And that's the reason people switch. And I've never had to do that because I'm so afraid of drawing while I'm traveling that I always get stuff done. I can only draw in my office. So I've never had that, but yeah, I should. I always think I'm going to experiment with it. And, I'm always drawing on deadline, like literally minutes matter. I always wait until I'm panicked. And so I never have the luxury. I mean, I clearly could at any time. I could just sit down and have and experiment and have fun with it or try things. But yeah, I've never actually taken the time to do that.
I've been drawing on Procreate every day. I do a drawing every day and using Procreate. Procreate was for me the gateway drug. It was just like transformative. And you can do all the things that you want, including having layers that you can kind of dial back and remove later on, to use as kind of like a sketching guide. It's just fantastic and very portable. So you might, and also filling in color after you've drawn. Oh my gosh, it's just fantastic.
Well, I do that because I scan in my pen. My pen
yeah, but there's they do other kinds of things that I think even Photoshop doesn't do very well.
Oh, all right. I guess what I'll say to you is what I say to everybody for the last 20 years. Oh yeah, I'll definitely I definitely want to do that, and then I won't do it. I mean, you're right. How can I not experiment with this incredible tool? But
But you won't.
I think I will, and then I don't. So,
I mean, I started buying these brushes and textures from this company called Retro Supply. Have you seen them?
This is for
Ruben?
Procreate, you mean?
Yeah,
Brushes for Procreate.
Procreate.
oh, I've heard of Retro
It's
Supply.
it's
That's
so
fantastic.
great. It's like Band-Aid dots and Letraset. It's like all
Yeah.
the old stuff, and you can make stuff look
Oh my God.
exactly like the way that a comic book was printed in the 60s, if you want.
That's all I want every time.
Yeah,
That's my. You and I are like obsessed with that look. And yes, I try to create it in Photoshop for certain comics that I think it's appropriate for. But that is I know that company. They do.
Yeah, you can actually get it for Photoshop too. Give it a try. I've got some of the brushes like to simulate kind of a little bit of bleed on the paper if you are going for that look instead of like
beautiful.
That cold precision is something that I struggled with for many years, and then finally it's just so much warmer having that fake that tradition.
Yeah,
it's more lively. It gives kind of a life to it.
Well, yeah, the life to it. That's the great cartoonists. I use a brush. When aside from computer stuff, they use a brush, and so I try to fake it with a basically a magic marker by pretending I have a brush, by making certain parts thicker, faking it. But I know that when you use some of these tools that you're talking about, that you can actually vary the width of the line as you draw, as though it's
pressure.
A brush.
But
but without the years of experience it takes to really learn how to use a brush for inking in cartooning.
Yeah,
so that is
so cool.
If that doesn't get me to do it, nothing will.
Yeah,
apparently nothing will.
Yeah, well, I imagine. I mean, you're doing a great job. I've been loving your Q Nuts series of the QAnon characters, and it's just beautiful. So if you don't want to stop doing it the way you're doing it, don't.
Well, I kind of do, but yet I don't. Yeah, the Q Nuts is based on peanuts, as though what comes after peanuts, it's Q Nuts, and so it's the Peanuts characters as QAnon followers in various ways, which I love these characters like I can't even tell you, and to draw them like this breaks my heart, but I think that's where the power of the comics come from. Is my heart breaking, and maybe the readers like, oh no, not Linus.
Yeah, it's so good. I love it, and
thanks.
I highly recommend people check it out. You can just type in like Q-nuts and bowling, and I'm sure y'all
and Boing Boing.
Yeah, and go to Boing Boing
in order to view it on as it should be viewed.
Yes, exactly. Or subscribing to your Inner Hive. So why don't you just mention what the Inner Hive is?
Oh yeah, well, the Inner Hive, it's gotten easier to explain because it's becoming more ubiquitous. But it's basically a subscription service that I started before Patreon existed. Where I just set up a thing where people could subscribe to my comic strip, and I send it to them a day before it's published, with commentary, with extra comics, with other stuff, with contests, whatever I can think of to create value. And so it's just like a subscription service, and it's available on Patreon now, and as well as other ways, and it's just with the death of newspaper cartooning, which was my career, this instantly, I mean, I'm talking about the day I launched it, saved the comic strip. So that's the reason it exists today, really, is there's all these other things that I do, and I need all of them. But the minute I did the Inner Hive, it became my biggest single source of revenue that I've ever had. So I'm just always so grateful to the subscribers, and I just want to give them, value every week.
It's like Substack before Substack.
That's right. It's now available on Substack too. It's like whatever platform arises, I want to be on it because I want to have people join this in whatever platform they're comfortable with.
Yeah. wherever they are, Tommy Dancing Bug
I
is
will
here.
be.
Yeah. That's cool. Okay, so I think we have one more tool, and this is something that I'm sure Kevin and I are both going to appreciate hearing about. It's called AllTrails.
Yeah.
Yeah, AllTrails is an app that I found over this summer. Um, well, I guess my wife and I have done this sort of typical pandemic thing. We're doing more outdoor activities, and I'm no outdoorsman at all. But I do like hiking. Not huge all day or multi-day hikes, but maybe 2, 3, 4 hours. And this app is great for hikes. It shows all the trails in your vicinity and has very useful maps for each one. And unlike most online comics, the user comments for these are actually really helpful with really good tips. So before you start your hike, you can find out tips about what you want to do, what you don't, some problems you may run into. Hikers love to give tips. Nothing makes me happier when I'm hiking back down a mountain and someone hiking up says, "Is it much farther?" And then I'm like, "Watch out." I tell them tips about what's ahead and lots of detail until they're finally like, "Okay, thanks a lot. We got to be going." Oh, one more thing. You'll see a big tree. So we just got back from our first trip in the pandemic, and we went to Arizona, and we did a lot of hiking there. And we used this app on the hikes there. And there was one hike that was really hard to stay on the trail. I'm terrible at that. If I come to a spot, I never know which way the trail goes until I'm not realizing until I'm in the middle of a bush or something. Then I have to backtrack and try to find the trail. But we on this one hike we miraculously had cell service the whole way in the middle of nowhere. So if we took a wrong step, I'd see it on the map that our little blue dot was moving away from the trail, and within steps we'd get back on the trail. And this was our biggest hike, and it really saved us.
Right.
We got to the end where there were these really cool caves. It really was great. So having the cell service and AllTrails is it may not be the most natural way to do this, but it really it saved us.
Right, and there's a website version as well, which is really good for researching when you're trying to decide which kind of trail you want to set off on.
Right.
What I like about it is that it covers things like parking. What's the parking situation like at either end, or how safe is it?
Absolutely, and the comments will have tons of stuff. There was one place where you really couldn't park, but they had tips in there on how to do it, and the commenters would, people who had been there like 3 days ago to say exactly what it's like and how to do it.
Right, exactly. There is another one people have been talking about called Gaia that it may. And I don't know how it compares, but it also seems to be very similar and has a kind of a broad use. I wondered if you had ever come across that.
No, I didn't. I mean, I'm not so experienced in this, but I'd love to. The more, the better. I'd love to have a whole other resource for this stuff.
But I do recommend AllTrails as it's the one I use, and
you do.
Yeah, it's really really great again for I use it for researching, trying to find out where I want to go, what are the kind of trails, because it lists not just kind of what I would say the famous or known trails. It also has a really great depth in detailing trails that maybe only the locals would know about, and uncovering or surfacing those kind of trails is really
absolutely yeah. I mean, I used it over the summer in the Berkshires in Western Massachusetts, and I've been there many times. I thought I knew the trails, and then I find this website and app, AllTrails, and I find stuff that I never knew about.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, it was great for that too.
Now I'm wondering if a premium version or something would allow you to download the maps offline, because GPS will work even without cell service, and then you don't run into that problem of getting lost if there isn't cell service.
I think it does have that, and I didn't know how that would work. I didn't even know what that meant when it said you can download the map offline, because I guess GPS works when you don't have cell service. So that's what I didn't understand. So I didn't know why you would need that, but that would be amazing if you could have GPS follow you on your hike.
Right. Yeah,
That would be
you can
so worth
actually,
it.
by the way, do that with Google Maps. Google Maps itself offers you the ability to preload or offload maps if you're going into a territory where you may not have cell service, including like if you were going overseas and didn't want to pay data. You can still use Google Maps like for a city that you might download. So that's
So
something
you can
else.
download an area or even like your directions from like here to there.
Yeah.
Oh, that is, see, you guys are giving me more tools than I'm giving you.
Yeah, it's a good thing. I've used that before too, like in different countries, and I've just downloaded the whole, like all of Rome, and then you can just
Oh,
see where you are, and you don't even need to have your cells. You can be in like airplane mode and just have the GPS on, and you can still see the map.
and it gives you the choice of like download this area, like this city.
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
Oh, that's so great.
Google.
All right, I'm writing this down. That's great.
So
That's really good.
I'm not sure, but AllTrails probably does have an option.
I think I'm almost positive. I think I saw that and didn't understand why they would have that option, but now I understand why, and I totally would have bought it, because then I would have had that for all the hikes. Only one hike had cell service through any of it.
Yeah.
And so that would have been great.
Yep. So anyway, that's a great recommendation, AllTrails, and we'll have links for all your tools in the notes.
Great.
Yeah.
So tell us about your new book.
Well, Clover Press is started this program of the complete Tom the Dancing Bug. So we're going to do multi-volumes. Each volume would have 4 years of the comic strip, and we're working our way backwards. So the first one was last year, and it was 2016 to 2019, the Trump years. And the next one is coming out next month, actually, in November. And it's covering 2012 to 2015. And it's called Tom the Dancing Bug Awakens. And I'm just so excited about this because all the comic strips are going to be in print, plus anything else I did in that time. So it's really the complete Ruben Bolling, because it's got, any freelance stuff that I did, anything I did for magazines, other comic strips. So yeah, I'm really psyched. And then they're doing another book. They did the Super Fun Pack Comics Reader last year, which is all of one of my formats is Super Fun Pack Comics, these little daily comic strips. And then this year, this November, also coming out at the same time, is going to be Tom the Dancing Bug without the bad ones. And it's just a very, like, the 140 best comics in my 31-year history of drawing Tom the Dancing Bug. So it's the cream of the crop.
That's so cool. And these are judged best by you?
They were judged best. I went through and I found like the ones that I thought were most important, had the best reaction. And then where I had like some questions, I actually put it to the Inner Hive to vote on which was the better one. Where two were similar, and which one. So that was a great way to involve them and also get some, an actual answer. But yeah, I'm pretending as though it was a very scientific process to determine the objectively best Tom the Dancing Bugs, but mostly it was me drawing like, oh yeah, that one. I think people like that one.
You should call it the Academy.
Yes, the Academy has ruled. I'm sorry,
yeah, exactly.
there are no appeals. I'm sorry you feel that way, but the Academy is never wrong.
So Clover Press, I'm not familiar with them. Could you tell me just like who they are and stuff?
Well, it's an offshoot from IDW, which is a big comic strip comic book company.
Sure.
And their founder left IDW to found Clover Press, and they just have like a very eclectic collection of stuff that they're doing. They do. They work with Craig Yo. I just looked it up to remind myself. They do. They work with a lot of different, really interesting cartoonists, and And so you should check out their website is cloverpress.us. And they do some horror stuff, some graphic novel adaptations they've done. I'm just really glad that they wanted to do this with Tom Dancing Bug. I was so glad and flattered. And then after the first one, they wanted us to ramp it up. I've already done the cover for they did volume 6, volume 7, I'm sorry, was Into the Trumpverse. Volume 6 comes out next month.
So they're going in reverse order?
Awakens, yep. And then I already did the cover for volume 5, which will be Tom the Dancing Bug, Eat the Poor. So we're doing it in reverse order because we wanted the first one to be about Trump right at the end of the Trump administration.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That was too perfect. And then I figure, we'll just work our way backwards. The paradigm I'm using, you'll appreciate, Mark, is the Fantagraphics, maybe you too, Kevin, Fantagraphics Donald Duck, the complete Karl Barks, where they don't do them in order. They're just sort of doing volume 16, then 20. They're sort of jumping around. And I think that's, it sort of works as long as they finish it.
Yeah, exactly. That's cool. Well, that's so exciting, Ruben. I'm so glad that these are coming out and hopefully find a new audience and a great way for fans of yours to revisit a lot of these amazing comics over 30 years. That's incredible.
I know. I don't believe it. Yeah. For 30 years, every single week I've been doing this. So, thank you. I'm so excited about this project.
Cool. Well, Ruben, it's been a pleasure having you on the show as usual. And I encourage people to check out the Inner Hive. Should they go to rubenbolling.com? Is that the place to go?
It's tomthedancingbug.com.
Ah, okay.
tomthedancingbug.com is your gateway into anything that I've talked about. But listen, guys, it was so great to talk to you guys. I really loved this. Is really great to talk to you guys again.
Hey everybody, it's your co-host Mark, and I wanted to let you know that we have a lot more going on here in Cool Tools than just this podcast. We have our flagship website where we review a new tool every day. That's at cool-tools.org. We also have 4 different newsletters. We have this podcast. We have a YouTube channel where we review tools. And if you like what you hear and see and read, the best way to help us out is by going to our Patreon page at patreon.com/cooltools and donate at any level you wish. You can even contribute $1 a month, and that would mean a lot to us. The money that you give us will go towards paying for our transcribing costs, editing videos and editing the podcast. It goes towards paying contributors who write the reviews for us. It goes towards our equipment costs, our hosting costs, and it supports our very small company of 3 people. This week, I wanted to give a shout out to some of our Patreon supporters who have been giving us at least $2 a month. And if you give us $2 a month, we'll give you a shout out online. And this week, I would like to thank Michael Sakochia, Molly Starr, M. Velderman, Opposable Thumbs, Pamela Cooley, Patrick Weyer, Paul Hosey, Randy Fisher, Stuart Burrows-Brand, Synaptic Sam, Therese Schwartz, Tom Hawkins, Tom Markham, What Bear, Javier Pangolin, David Lang, Eric Byers, Sean Hartley, Stephen Powell, Greg Lichtscheit, John Hobson, Adam Bristol, Adam Naher, Anonymous, Bill Kempthorne, Bruce I. Niles, Chris Woodruff, C. Kolos, Daryl Flynn, Egg Fleegoff, Eric Hanschrau, Eric Hoover, Godfrey Saldana, Jay Skiles, John M. Larson, Jude Galligan, Kenneth Gilman, and Lucas Frank. Thank you very much for supporting the show, and we will see you next week.